The Moon Haters. Preface. Coastal trade around the UK only became smuggling after the imposition of taxes. From as early as the 13th century, owlers, as they were known, exported wool from the coast of Norfolk, evading the duty demanded by the King and Exchequer. Trading across the North Sea with the European seaports was so much quicker and easier than going over land by wagon and packhorse. Rural coastal communities saw themselves as free traders and employed a huge amount of manpower, and thus were their own security. "Watch the wall, my darling, whilst the gentlemen go by." The organization of these large gangs of smugglers was no mean feat, and required near military control and command. The following is based on recorded fact and conversational supposition. The places and goods are real, the people are a product of imagination. "You looking for Nathaniel Stubbins, lad?" barked a haphazard bundle of muffler, frock coat, and a single buckled high boot. Piercing blue-green eyes fixed Jacob in their glare. Eyebrows, thick as a frost-rimed bramble, raised and amplified the question. Nodding, Jacob was only halfway down from the rear of the stagecoach, eyes gritty and limbs frozen stiff. "You'll be the scrivener and tallyman Jacob, Isaac Solomon's nephew, come to learn the art of the Moon Haters. Put your things in the trap over yonder and meet me in the tap room. I'll be getting you something to warm you afore we're off." Without a backward glance, the fellow rose, retrieved an iron-shod crocked stick, thick as a wrist, and hobbled on a withered, shrunken, twisted foot and his one good leg across the yard and in through a door in the corner of the inn. Jacob, clutching his satchel, watched as the two small trunks were loaded onto the trap. The coach horses, nickering, stamped, and sparks flew off the cobbles as they were taken out of the traces. Steamy breath joined the mist of sweat as it hung in the yard. The new team were put to the traces as the spent horses made their way to the stable, to a well-earned feed, drink, rub-down, and rest. With his things stowed, he walked, stiff-legged, across the yard, tossing a penny to the ostler's boy and through the door. Before him the passage was dim. He was guided by the sound of lively chatter from behind a curtain at the end of the passage. As he drew back the curtain, all conversation stopped and all eyes were on him. "'S'all right, that's our paymaster's lad and scribe," boomed a voice in the inglenook. Jacob looked in the direction of the booming and saw Stubbins sat at a bench by the fire. On the table before him were 2 quart tankards, a bottle, bread and cheese. "Come and warm yourself and wrap your ribs around this whilst I mull you a toddy, then we can make a start." Jacob wove through the throng and sat on the bench next to the fire. "Thanks, Mr. Stubbins," as he took the tankard. "Nat, lad, all call me Nat or Stubbins the Squint. Knew your uncle from when he was about your age. Came to my dad just as you're coming to me. Father was the Moon Haters beach master then. I learnt the squint, taught my lad Edward, and growed into beach master on account of my foot. Couldn't be a tub man nor run decoy." Jacob puzzled and was about to ask when Stubbins continued. "Don't suppose you know nothing about squints, tubmen, and the like, but that's why you're here, to learn the art of the Moon Haters. Drink up, lad, and eat something, then I'll introduce you to the crew." With that, Nat rose to one leg and picked up his stick and made his way to the bar. Once there, he rapped the stick on the flags, and an expectant hush fell on the assemblage. "We all know why we're here. It's dark moon and high springs perfect for we the Moon Haters." The assembled throng murmured, banged tables with mugs, bottles, and palms. Rapping the iron tip of his stick on the flags again, the crowd hushed, and once again Stubbins had their full attention. "2 nights hence it'll be dark moon and high spring tide, so for the next 3 nights I want the twin mulattoes to run Black Shuck from Sea Palling to Walcott. From dusk to dawn, there and back, with as much bang and fuss as that dog of yours will make. There's a dead sheep in the store to quarter and savage. Be sure to leave pieces where they'll be found. That will keep the curious behind doors and windows shuttered. You 2 know what's required, but that much and no more. Understood?" The 2 girls nodded and without a word came forward to Stubbins and received a key and slid back into the mob that parted and closed at their passing like a thick fluid. They wove their way through the crush and slid onto the bench either side of Jacob, their wild hair and voluptuous curves occupying so much more than the 2 other seats on the bench. Delight and embarrassment in equal measure hammered with each beat of the lad's heart. Never had he seen nor imagined unlaced women in nankeen trews, with knee boots, shirts, and waistcoat hangers at their belts, let alone been sat next to 2 creatures of such wild beauty and extravagant physicality. Next, the squints. The Dutchman wants to come ashore at Cart Gap. So Edward, at dusk, I want a long-nosed lantern atop the church tower at Eccles. Line it up with the weather vane due east. Edward, watch for 3 flashes from down the coast. Answer smartly with 3 from your lantern. Cover the nose and count 3 thrice, then point your lantern due north and wait. Stubbins took a draught from his tankard, wiped his chops with his coat sleeve, turned to face the next man. Now, Tom, your alarm watch and squint. From first light, you'll be on Happisburgh Church Tower. You can see 5 corn mills and 5 drainage mills. Each will signal each hour of daylight in the usual way. St. George's Cross for clear and St. Andrew's for excise abroad. And some 30 churches. Each will have a squint and will signal come dusk hourly. You know the signals, so keep your eyes peeled. After dark, point your long nose east-southeast. Again, line it to the weather vane. When you see the 3 flashes from the Dutchman, same as Ed, answer with 3 flashes for a count of 3 thrice, then point your nose due east and again wait. Where's Davy Wright? Step forward, lad. You'll be atop the dunes, just south of Cart Gap, and won't see the squint lights atop the churches, but you will see the Dutchman's flashes at sea. As soon as you do, shine you your long nose and point it due east. I'll line you up with my compass before dusk. When the Dutchman can see all 3 lights, he'll be on the spot 40 fathoms offshore. Then he'll flash reply 4 times with a count of 2 between. You all answer with 4 flashes to a count of 3. The Dutchy'll know the coast's clear. That's when Ed and Tom, you mask your lights sharply. Tom, you stay put. Keep your eyes on those churches. If a light flashes, there's preventives about, so use your squint to warn us at the gap. Davy, keep your light steady till they are aground. It's high springs, so they should beach near enough to smell the gin on their breath. Then flash them thrice at depth your light. You 3 squints have good whale oil in the long noses, and all have good flint and steel, so all the squints are set. Ed and Tom, keep your eyes peeled and your ears sharp for the sound of horse and harness. You know the signals if anyone approaches from inland or along the coast. Now give it me back. Ed, you first. First Ed, then Tom, and finally Davy retold their instruction flawlessly, while Stubbins took a long pull from his tankard. He filled and lit his pipe. Satisfied, he dismissed the 3, took another long pull from his quart pot, and drew on his pipe until it crackled and spat. Knocking the dottle onto the flags and crushing it with the iron-shod stick, he looked round the gathering. Decoys, where are you? 5 tattered elderly women with bodies that looked to be made up of driftwood and faces like angry walnuts scuttled sideways to the fore. Each of you will set small, and I do mean small, beacons along the cliffs. We don't need another gorse fire running with the breeze. Munsley, Trimmingham, Sidestrand, Overstrand, and East Runton each choose your own spot. You'll light your beacon and turn when, and only when, you see a mast light dip to deck and raise again about a 1/4 mile offshore. The light'll be on a fishing smack traveling up the coast and will draw any riding preventives away from the landing. You've all done this many times, so don't get lazy on me, and you'll have cash a kind of week hence. Let me know before we part today. Nathaniel Stubbins drained his pot, rubbed his stubbled chin, and continued the instruction. All cargo coming ashore must pass through the gap where Jacob over there, stand up lad, will be running the inventory and tally. The parcels of specials will come ashore first. All hands will help load the ponies and wagons in a chain from ship to shore, and no fighting with the Dutch boys or you'll meet the rough end of my stick. Remember, tobacco, silks, medicines, and the like can't get wet or they'll spoil, so keep the chain moving. Tubman, you'll be first off from the gap. 322 half anchors of strong Geneva ready slung, 2 per man, per trip, paid at the usual rate. I want them taken to Sudden Staith and loaded upon the wherry of Billy Royal. Choose your own pass, but no more than 10 men in a group. Billy'll give every man a token for each trip that I'll change for coin 5 days hence in the Staltham Harnser. Weather's been kind and the ground firm. There's 40 of you, so 4 trips per man is what I expect, but if you can manage more, God bless you. Filling and relighting his pipe, Stubbins continued. Now to the carters. 15 5-horse teamers, 2 lads and a driver each. Since Pitt reduced the duty on tea last Parliament of 1783, we've left it to the fair traders, but there will be tea for the moon haters. The throng cheered, and there were cries of, better be Geneva and baccy for us and all. Is there any oranges this trip? I do so love an orange. This from one of the twins. Stubbins, bagging his stick for quiet, continued. So, there's more specials and tobacco in oilcloth bundles, plus 180 30-gallon kegs of French brandy. Each wagon to load with 12 kegs and 24 bundles. Plus some specials, depending on the route. Drops at Coltishall, Beston, Hovton, and Rackheath Halls. the lonely cherry tree Plumstead, the usual drops on Mousehold and in the city, the Cathedral Close, and the hospital. Jacob will direct the specials to the right wagon on the night, so as the goods come ashore. Once loaded, head straight for the usual barns and top off with Reed and Rush. Leave in groups of 3, that's 5 trains. Each take a different path, you all know the routes, and there will be drops along the way. You'll get instruction before you leave the gap. Thence to Norwich, Magdarlan, and Bargate's been bought, so no stopping. Then each to the store you know. Arrive at dusk or just after dark. There'll be hands to unload, and you'll be paid by the storeman then and there. Pony trains, all of you with 12 beasts each, will only carry the city specials, smartly. Straight to the city. Get there well before dawn. Each knows where to go, so no loitering. In the yards unload, load up the decoys, and out again with the decoy loads. All the ponies know their way, so dump some of the decoys at first sight of the militia on the road south, west, and north out of the city. Lead them a dance, lads. Draw them off a goodly distance afore you cut and run. The ponies will find their ways. Just you lads make your good escape. I think that be it, Stubbins said, unless there's any queries. There was a moment's silence, and then a general chatter grew to a hubbub, and Stubbins turned to the bar and shouted for the tapster to fill everyone's pot before they depart their separate ways. Jacob, sitting by the fire, was greeted by several "Knew your ma, knew your pa and uncle," and made to feel welcome and part of the crew. The 2 mulatto girls, having squeezed in either side of Jacob and poured him another pot and mulled it with a poker from the fire, whereupon they started to question him about where he came from and who was his uncle. Did Jacob think them pretty? Which was the fairest of complexion? Where was he going to stay the night? Jacob could hardly get a word in edgewise. He felt hotter and redder as the girls pushed their fingers through his hair. Gulping his toddy, he made a valiant attempt to assume mastery of the situation, but the girls were having none of it. Out of the corner of his eyes, Stubbins had been watching the trio on the bench, and as the girls made to leave, he swung his stick with a mighty thwack on the table. The whole room was instantly silenced. "Now, ladies," he said with a heavy irony, "give the lad back his watch, purse, satchel, and his pretty tricorn." With a hissing and kissing of teeth, the girls complied. Jacob sat with mouth agape, flushing redder than before to the roots of his hair. "But Nat," said the one in the green waistcoat, "we was just funning with him. Never would have taken off with his stuff." "He is so pretty, though, Nat," chimed in the other. "No harm done, Mr. Stubbins. Just a bit of fun, as Chloe said." Jacob stood and retrieved his things from the table. "That's Clara," pouted Chloe. "Ha! I knew he liked me best." Clara triumphantly flounced across the floor, followed instantly by her sister. "Girls!" barked Stubbins. "No more of that. Go and get that beast of yours ready and lead the lad to his work. There may be time for funning later after the Dutchie's back out to sea and it's time for the payout. That is, if the lad is interested and you've not put him off females forever." Jacob was speechless as the girls left to attend their beast. Stubbins winked at him and, laughing, said, "You could do worse, lad, you could do worse. Mind you, those 2 would eat you whole and spit out the pips. Grab your traps, lad, as we'd best be off."